founded skincare brand, where we match up ionized skincare and microcurrent devices, actually to give like a holistic way to get a 5-minute facial lift from home, like no appointment necessary. So we're a luxury consumer goods brand where our hero products generally run from $199 to $325, with skincare replen coming in roughly around like 30 to 40. With such a highly considered purchase, it might take a few months until we see a device conversion within our channel. So we're a much longer customer life cycle over here.
And I'm Jeff. I'm Bartlett. I'm the Director of Lifecycle Marketing here at Hunt a Killer, which is an immersive game company. Our customer buying cycle, a lot of our business is subscription based. So our customer buying cycle ideally is every month they're playing an episode of our game. However, we are seeing a growing cohort of consumers who are buying one-off products that we sell. And so those might be, buying something once every Christmas to give as a gift. Average order value for us is $110, $120 depending, because it ranges from, I think our most expensive product is about $180. Our least expensive would be a monthly subscription that's $30 a month. So anywhere in between there.
Hi, I'm Max. I work as a CRM manager for Nourished. We're a UK-based company. We essentially make 3D printed personalized vitamins. So you can go on our website, take a quiz, and we essentially 3D print a stack of vitamins, a month's supply of vitamins that we then send to you on a subscription basis. So you get a monthly supply from us. The average order value is about $39.99. We do one-off products as well as the subscription, but a large majority of our customers actually sign up for a subscription.
Great. Thank you, Marie, Jeff, and Max. And I will say I'm a customer of all of your brands, part of the danger of working at Klaviyo. Data, let's jump into the first question. Data is a really important aspect to understanding your customer base and the trends of consumer purchasing behavior. It also allows you as a business owner or marketer to make informed decisions going forward as you grow your business. One of the best ways to look at data within Klaviyo is the custom reporting feature that we recently launched. In your expert opinion, what are the most important data points and or reports that marketers should be looking at and why?
Yeah, I can start with this one. I know for us, we have a really small and lean team. So the custom reporting is invaluable for us as we try to streamline what area we spend the most time in, especially when it comes to analytics. While we can get a really good view of just the standard engagement metrics, that's important to any brand, whether that's the engagement rates, opens, unsubs, all of that. What's really important for us is truly understanding where those high inflection points or those outliers are. And that's where custom reporting helps us. So when we're kind of looking at all of our different content sets, being a really heavy education brand, we place a really high importance on just taking the time to see what stories clients are essentially telling us as a means of translating what their actions are from all these different emails that they're sending out. So we kind of get clues as to what to amplify and test differently, both for our channel as well as looping in others across the business. So just for us, just makes it easy to just add in tags and then say, hey, out of these 2, 3, 4 categories, these are the top performers. These ones we might need to reevaluate how we're leveraging the data here, or maybe changing the way we actually approach the content overall. So it just truly has helped us streamline and then figure out, hey, let's look at data a little bit differently than just the standard rates, really digging in deep to figure out what clients are truly doing and what they're telling us in these more passive ways, essentially.
Yeah, just to kind of go on the back of that. So we, on our website, I guess, your CRM system is only as good as the quality of data that you're feeding into Klaviyo. So we've got quite a complicated algorithm on our website that's used to personalize the vitamins that we send to our customers. And in that short quiz that you enter on our website, you tell us about your health goals, you tell us about your dietary needs, your age, and how often you go to the gym. So all of that's fed into Klaviyo. And then what I'm able to do is identify key data points, such as demographic data or even what their goals are for the future, so that then I can then serve them with emails that are completely personalized to them. It doesn't feel, I don't want anyone, who's receiving an email from Nourish to feel like it's been sent to everyone. I want it to feel like it's completely tailored to their needs and their health goals. So that's kind of like just feeding off what Marie's gone. But yeah, that's the main thing.
Oh, Jeff, you're on mute.
Thank you. 11 months of pandemic, and I'm still not any better with the mute button. I apologize. For us, it's probably isn't going to be super relevant to some of the other folks on this call, but I'll just run through it really quickly. We use custom reporting to track episode completions. We sell a game. We want to know when people have played those games. There's a lot of flows in Klaviyo that are serving content to people based on what game they just completed or what episode they've just completed. So that's really our North Star metric as a company. And prior to custom reporting, it was really painful for me to go look at and metric in Klaviyo and say, this is how many just finished episode 1 of season 7, and here's episode 2. And with custom reports, I can just dump all that into a spreadsheet, and it's the driving value behind our company. So it got a lot easier when you guys rolled out that feature. But advising everyone to count episode completions is probably going to be only relevant to a small fraction of companies out there. Sorry.
Great. And yeah, with custom reporting, we do have a couple other iterations coming up on our roadmap that do include more support for different types of reports, including lists and segments, and also visualizations, just as an FYI. Great. Oh, this is, I think, probably my favorite question. What was one of the most surprising or key pieces of information you learned from your customers in the last year? And how did that piece of information determine your goals for this year?
I'll start this one because I have one that was embarrassing and enlightening. We survey customers for an NPS score, as many companies do. We have a company-wide NPS score, and we're very happy with that score. We've never really dug into kind of a more granular level. What about this game? What about that game? And recently we decided, hey, let's ask everybody who's playing this story to see if they like it. And the results were very underwhelming. So a thing that we thought was great, our customers told us, not as great as you think it is. So really, that was very surprising information for us. It led to us making a couple of changes. And really the renewed focus for us in terms of goals for this year is to get that granular information. So let's figure out which products people buy they really love and they come back and make a second purchase, and which they're not as excited about. And it sounds foundational, like maybe we should have done this already, but it's just one of those things that you look at NPS score and you're like, oh, we're doing great. We're looking anecdotally at feedback, but we're going into 2021 with a renewed focus on asking our customers what we should be building, what they like, what they don't like. And I think that does translate to almost every company on this call.
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback on the end of that, I think one of the key things that I learned so far since using Klaviyo, since starting at the business, was it's kind of obvious, but potential customers, so people that are in our database that haven't actually bought from us, they don't want to just be fed the same sales email. They don't want to be constantly sold to. I guess it's a different experience with us because what they've done is to enter our database, they've told us, about their health goals, about their dietary needs, why they, and kind of why they want to have a personalized vitamin. So at the end of the day, they've given consent to be emailed to and provided us with this personal information. So we should respect that. And I've always basically thought that we need to just keep them updated with really relevant information. So using Klaviyo's segmentation application, it's basically, every time I send an email campaign, I'll make sure that I'm sending, specific content to people that have identified as vegan, differently to people that haven't, for instance, or people that have said, I exercise in the gym 3 to 5 times a week versus people that say they don't do it that often. That's been the most surprising thing for me, because I think I know a lot of people that work in email marketing, and they just think that if you're a prospect, that prospect segment that haven't bought from us, to hit their revenue goals, they need to be just hammering that segment. I disagree with that. That's what I found so far, because the unsubscribe rate can just shoot up because people just aren't interested because they think you're like every other company. But if you can personalize the email to what they need, or what that they might be interested in, that can really help.
I love your answer, Max. We saw something super, super similar too. So for us, like point blank, what we learned was what got us here won't get us where we want to go. Like a big part of what we were doing was really straight up like promotional messaging, like say, hey, 30% off, get this, like just straight messaging like that. So like a really nerdy, funny one for me that we learned last year was, hey, that doesn't work for us actually. Like everything we kind of know as like your traditional, what's in your traditional like marketer tool belt, so to speak, of what you know typically works. We did like some sneaky tests to figure out, hey, like, does this truly work? Especially knowing that, again, we're really heavy on education. We know we're like in a luxury space, like things are a little bit different for us. And it's okay to be different. So we started to do some A/B testing and say, hey, if we tested this 30% messaging, would that do better than a really, really long educational email that sells more on value first and then like close off with the sale, or honestly not even talk about the sale? We saw like double the revenue from the latter. It was insane. So for us, we kept retesting that over and over again because I didn't even believe it. Like I was hoping it would work, honestly, as a retention marketer, but I didn't believe it. So our entire year last year, we were testing that through. So yeah, for us, really is challenging the status quo on that. And as long as you have that objective and you test through, each brand's gonna be really different. But to your point, don't be afraid to test through these things that you might know in your gut, really thinking through with the client first.
What I really like about all these answers is I feel like the data kind of falls into two columns of like explicit data that you're collecting directly from customers and you know what they want or what they're asking of you. And then implicit data, like how are they performing? How are they interacting with your site? Some of the stuff that something like custom reports can help support, uncover trends around. Great. Another question coming off of that. Everyone here on this panel saw amazing growth last year. What's one of the tactics that has been super effective for you in reaching new customers online and growing your list? And how will you evolve or scale that strategy in 2021? Maybe Max, you can kick us off. Oh, you're on mute.
Oh gosh, I was hoping that wouldn't happen. So our head of marketing, this woman called Helen, so she's the acquisition whiz. So she basically, before I started the company, she really grew our business because, I mean, Nourish is 12 months old, but you wouldn't imagine it from the numbers that we're actually seeing. But she basically grew that quite aggressively over the year through a combination of digital display and social media and activity. Being in the health and wellness space, consumers seek information about that more so on social media than they ever did before. I mean, people naturally still go on WebMD and .org websites, for instance, but they do often go to influencers. So engaging with people in the space in social media, I know it sounds really obvious, but engaging with people in the environment that your customer is going to be in is the key. That's where they're going to naturally go to your website and then sign up for more emails from you or become like prospects or essentially buy your products, aren't they? So influencers can definitely help just because they have such a massive reach. But I think what we found with influencers is rather than contact, a load of influencers, you need to be choosing the right ones. And you can be, because an influencer with, 100,000 followers is not necessarily better than the one with 5,000 followers, because it depends on how well engaged they are. You need to look at their engagement rates, how well they comment on Instagram and things like that. So really, I think it's just about thinking of the entire customer journey from A to B being your website, and think about what they're doing before they come to your website. And it depends on the products and service that you're offering.
Yeah, I would say even for us, like due to our longer decision-making life cycle, like we can't rely on just one channel alone. Like we know people are going to be hitting so many different channels as they're going through like a couple of months of really like understanding and learning and kind of debugging really on their side of where they see value. So super important for us, to think through each of those channels as well. Similar to what you're also mentioning, Max, like influencers is a really big part of our strategy, truly working across all of our different groups. So it's like our paid media side, as well as our social team, because we like to feed back insights to them too. So being on the email side, it's really easy for us to do really quick tests to help reinform those groups too. And it's kind of helped us shaped that strategy from like a full circle, so to speak. And like another really proud moment we had last year, kind of thinking through all of that, of kind of reaching across each channel, was when we really placed a really big emphasis last year on truly talking across all the different channels in a very consistent narrative and like brand image. Like we saw this hockey stick of returning purchaser growth, which is so fun to be able to see, to say, hey, we knew anecdotally, we thought it was working, but then to like go to like our QGR with our CSM from Klaviyo to truly show like in Shopify, like, hey, we actually have this big hockey stick. It was pretty fun. But yeah, knowing where clients are seeing your brand and where they're interacting, like all of those points matter. None of them do not matter in any sense of the word.
Really interesting to hear both of you mentioned micro-influencers. I feel like I've seen that scattered across the internet for like 2021 marketing trends that will hold strong. Great. Well, let's move into more kind of like data hygiene, list management related questions. So having a large list, isn't helpful if your customers are not engaged. In fact, sending messages to people who aren't opening your emails can do more harm than good from a deliverability standpoint. So strategies around managing disengaged profiles, they can vary, right, from simply just excluding unengaged profiles from a campaign sends to the best practice of really list cleaning, maybe on a quarterly basis, and or using sunset flows to attempt a last-ditch effort to reach profiles before suppressing them. So what sort of strategies and cleaning cadences have worked for you? Maybe Jeff, you can kick us off here.
Yes, I've been outed as the deliverability nerd. It's interesting. We don't even report on list size. We report on engaged list size. So the total size of our database, we never talk about. We talk about who in that database is engaged within 90 days and who in that database is engaged within 30 days. After a 90-day gap in engagement, we start excluding people from campaign-based sends. We let flows based on their journey continue. We do reach out with sort of our bigger offers, but we start to kind of move those people into a different group and try to re-engage them. At the 180-day mark, if someone goes 6 months without opening a message, I unsubscribe them. And the reality there is that's to avoid spam traps. I just looked at this morning. AOL will start making recycled spam traps after 90 days. Yahoo starts after 180. Gmail and Hotmail start after 270. So essentially, if you continue emailing people for too long, first of all, the lack of engagement hurts. Inbox placement is algorithmic. You're just demonstrating to the recipient domain that people aren't opening your message if you're constantly emailing people who don't open your message. But at a certain point, it becomes openly harmful when you're hitting spam traps from a deliverability perspective. So I had someone ask me about this once, and what they asked was, well, how do you give up on a lead you pay for? Like, I mean, that person's chance of purchasing it's not zero, right? Like they might buy from your brand, and that's true. But at the point we sort of cut bait, I think that person has demonstrated that they're not going to buy through email. They may well buy from our brand, but it's sure not going to be via the channel they just ignored 40 messages from over the last 6 months.
Yeah, just going on the back of that, that's a really good point. I think what Jeff mentioned about it damaging you is a really, really key point, because it's not necessarily just about the fact that you're paying for Klaviyo, and you're paying for a certain number of subscribers for Klaviyo, and there's a big chunk of or a small chunk of people that are just not engaged. So you're just paying for a service to email people that are just never going to buy from you. It also, we all know that if you keep hitting the spam folder, the reputation of your IP address will significantly fall, which will damage the deliverability of your emails, which will just affect you much longer term. So that's the main thing that I would say. So what I've done in Klaviyo is I basically set up a flow. I'm not as clinical, so to speak, as Jeff, but I've set up a flow to identify customers who have not opened or clicked a certain amount of emails, and then they basically go into this flow. I update the properties, and then they go automatically into this flow that is essentially like a win-back version, a win-back flow, where I basically send them a certain number of emails with different types of content. It could be, here's an offer, or it could be, promoting our customer reviews and so what our customers say, just to see what different type of content works. And then if they still don't engage after going through that flow, that's when I suppress them. So it's kind of like a last ditch attempt to say, are you not engaged with us? And what I do in that is A/B test quite a lot. So I will literally A/B test subject lines that I wouldn't naturally use. So, and just really go out there, because these people might never open your email again. So I would suggest literally A/B testing, the different type of content, still on brand, but subject lines that you just never normally would use in a traditional marketing sense, just to see if they kind of open email. So yeah, that would be my tip. But it just goes back to what Jeff was saying. It's all about, doing what is most effective for your strategy, because if they're not engaged, what's the point in contacting them?
Yeah, this is a super important topic. It's actually really interesting how much sometimes when I'm speaking with customers, especially potentially the executive team, there's not a lot of understanding about deliverability and how it actually does impact your bottom line. It's not just this game of like, where am I going to land in the inbox today? It's about the reputation of your brand, like Max and Jeff mentioned. And if you continue to send to people who are not engaged, inbox providers will start to route your folders to where emails that don't get engaged with go, which is going to be spam, what have you. So PSA, if you are having deliverability issues, one red flag is like single digit open rates. Highly recommend checking out our deliverability related help docs. You can also reach out to our support team for assistance. Cool. Great. So kind of continuing on the theme of lists, aside from growing your subscriber list and keeping it clean, segmentation is key when it comes to sending the right message to the right audience at the most effective time. How does your brand go about segmenting, and how do you maintain a good cadence of emails going to buyers and or current customers in multiple lists?
I'm more than happy to start. So because we're a subscription service, we have a lot of similar segments, I guess you could say, that are set up in Klaviyo, like people that are subscribers, people that have lapsed, one-off purchases, and everything like that. So, but because we gain insight into what their health goals are, and we know how we basically know how Nourish can help them achieve their goals. So we're able to create from that. I'm basically able to create sub-segments. So they're not just subscribers, they're subscribers who have these goals, who have these dietary needs, and that bigger group gets chunked off into smaller groups, if that makes sense. So that's basically so that I can send more personalized emails. It's a lot more work, but it's much, much more effective, and it will give you much more insight, because if you send an email out to all of your subscribers and it doesn't perform that well, and you look at the open rate or the click rate and you say why, you're not going to really know unless you've segmented it into these different pots, and then say, cool, so that content didn't resonate with people that like A, B, and C, but it might work with X, Y, and Z. So that's basically what I do. So last week, for instance, I sent an email to our vegan customers telling them about products that might interest them. It included different types of content, like a link to the latest blog article that was appropriate to them, to ensure that we're communicating value, and also reminded them about how, our Refer a Friend program. But in terms of cadence, in terms of how often you should be sending something, this is something that you have to learn, and something I wouldn't ever say I'm like an expert on, because, consumer habits change constantly. So it's just it's important to just not assume that, we're marketers and, what worked last year is going to work this year. I think that's a major, major mistake that I've seen in previous businesses. So you should be monitoring unsubscribes and inbox deliverability constantly. Obviously, to ensure your IP address is not inadvertently damaged because you're hitting the spam folder a lot, but also to ensure that you're not annoying, your current customer base. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I actually want to jump in with an example. The timing is so important. And we have something like 80 flows active in Klaviyo, all of which are tied to events. I think our business probably has more events that are tied to things like episode completion, but I think everybody can do some part of this where we're just using the events, the touch points that we have for engagement. So we have a feature, we have a concept that if you want for the subscription product, if you want your next box right now, rather than waiting a month, you can go into your account, click a button and do that. And that was a pretty popular feature. People knew about it. We told them about it during our onboarding drip campaign. But we saw in feedback all the time, I wish I didn't have to wait a month for our next box. So we knew that people weren't necessarily finding that feature. So we put together a flow that when they finish their first episode, they immediately get an email with that offer. And first of all, that email has like an 88% open rate. So your timing is everything. Like right message, right time. Like if you can find that moment to talk to someone about a feature, a lot of eyeballs are going to be on that offer. But we saw our take rate on that feature triple just by changing the timing of that message to be the time when that person is receptive to that message. So, use the touch points you have. I mean, you may not have an episodic murder mystery subscription game with a bunch of events that correlate to gameplay, but like you have a customer journey, and that journey has touch points, and a lot of those touch points are opportunities for specific messages.
I think one other thing I could piggyback off of both of you guys too is even for those who might be on smaller teams that don't have so many segments starting off right now, like that's okay. It's okay to start off using like your ad hoc sends as your test bed. That's what we literally did all last year was, hey, at least we can get some insight. So then when we're ready to actually build out these end-to-end flows, we have that insight to move backwards from and then kind of test into it. Like don't put pressure on yourself to literally have everything done all right away and have all these things set up. There's ways to build into it as long as you know what your objective is and like what you're trying to do for the client. Being able to build backwards is a perfectly fine plan, and you can still get a lot done even that way and building those foundational items too.
Great. Before we move on, I think everyone would probably want me to confirm. Jeff, did you say 80 flows?
Yeah, I counted recently. It's actually like 85, and we're about to add 20 because we're rolling out an app, and so we need to track episode completions in the app separately from the web function people use now. So I may be, I don't know, find me another Klaviyo user with more flows than we have, because I want to connect with that person and figure out what they're doing.
Yeah, certainly none of my customers, and I will say I'm a little happy about that. And before we jump into groups, I do want to mention one thing Max mentioned about like sending, campaigns to different segments. On our roadmap, we do have coming soon the ability to send one campaign to multiple segments, so you can see how each group, engage differently with the same message. One breakdown I'm excited about is like for the same campaign, how did purchasers versus non-purchasers react to the campaign? Great. Cool. So we're going to split off into